Hi, I'm Mark Simon, and I'm known as the Godfather of Storyboarding. And yeah, the bulk of what I do by far is as a story artist on film and TV and commercials. I've now worked on over 6,000 productions, literally everything from small shows to the biggest TV shows, like Stranger Things and all the Walking Dead shows and Dexter and FBI and Marvelous Mrs Maisel, a ton of great stuff. I've worked on over 60 features in that, a couple of video games, but I'm also known as a writer. I've written a lot of books on the industry. For instance, I wrote the main Bible of storyboarding. I've written a lot of books like inspirational books to help people succeed as creatives, and I've even written a novel, a memoir, which I'll probably, in one of these other answers, talk a little bit about. So when I went to LA, I started as an art director. So I was designing sets and locations and whatnot for movies, which is great. It was a lot of fun, really built on my experience. But what I found after a few years of doing that is I was really missing drawing. And I was seeing storyboards come across my desk all the time. So I went to the largest agency in the world at the time. It was called Storyboards Inc. They're based in Venice, in South LA. And I just walked in and I introduced myself to one of the agents there, showed him some samples. He said they were terrible. I said, all right, what can I do to make them better? He gave me some samples, and I showed up a week later with new samples. And he said, better, not good. And every week I kept showing up. More samples, more samples, more samples. And he either got tired of me showing up, or I got to the point where they were good enough, and he said, all right, how about a Honda commercial? And that was a slow start to my being a story artist. And then I was working at HBO on a series called First and 10 as the set designer. And I went to the executive producer. I said, hey, you're paying for me anyway. If you ever need storyboards, I'm here. Let me do them. 2 weeks later, he called me, gave me some storyboards to do. So then I had my first series. And it just built until, as I mentioned before, I started working with Spielberg. And I thought, oh, yeah, this is it. I'm never going back. And that was it. From that moment on, I was headlong into storyboarding and loving every minute and every year of it. So I had a better start than a lot of people because I was working in my family's construction company. So I was given a lot of responsibility from a very young age. I was running my own businesses all the way through college. I even published a magazine when I was in college that I had distributed through 4 different universities. So I had a lot of experience before I moved out to LA and started my career, my current career. But there were things I wish I had known, which I now use to help other people. I use it for myself, but I do a lot of mentoring. One of which is how to get involved in the industry. I mean, I had no idea. No one I knew growing up really helped me at all in that kind of stuff. My parents wanted to, but they didn't know anything about the industry. So, getting involved in the industry. So becoming a member of industry groups like Women in Film is always a good one, special effects, or the visual effects industry. There's a lot of different groups that you can join, but don't just go and be a wallflower. Go and offer to help at their events. Sign people in a table so you meet everybody. Help put the big events together. You meet the movers and shakers. Only the people who are executives and generally powerful people and people with a lot of connections are in positions, top positions in these groups. You want to meet them, but really you want them to meet you. And if you're doing a great job, have a great attitude, and they're not paying you, they know you're going to do a better job when they are paying you, and you're going to get the first calls. Well, I am a combination of both schooled and self-taught. I went to a regular 4-year university because in addition to always wanting to be an artist, I always wanted to make money. And art schools don't teach business. So I have a double degree in art and business. double major, I should say, and which was great. All growing up, my dad was a musician, among other things, so he was always sending me to piano lessons and guitar lessons, none of which I picked up at all. But I would come back with cartoons drawn on the sheet music. So they finally realized that their money and my time and less arguing would be spent giving me art lessons. So generally it was just a couple months with each individual teacher. I'd learn what I came from them and I would move on. And then, obviously through college, no one was teaching storyboarding or art direction. I started as an art director in Hollywood. My dad taught me construction and design, which I used as an art director. So I was taught that way from him. I wasn't taught in school. I was taught in school how to draw to a degree. I was taught filmmaking in college, but no one had written any definitive books on storyboarding. I mean, so, once I started working as a story artist, I wrote this. This is the 3rd edition of it now. And this is the Bible of the industry. I think it's in like 7 languages. Got over 1,000 pieces of art. It's literally everything that I know, or at least that I knew when I first wrote it, or the 3rd time I rewrote it. So, but there's a lot to my studio, and I built every aspect of my studio to be really freaking cool and to inspire me every time I come down the stairs to it. So a lot of things inspire me. I mean, great original art, scans of original comic art and comic book art. I love, and my office space. I mean, you can see a little bit of it here. This is where I do the bulk of my drawing when I'm not on location, working on location. I'll see some great movies and then I'll think, God, that would have been so much fun to work on. Again, virtually everything Spielberg does. I just love the way he breaks down his shots. One of his recent movie about his life, The Fabelmans. Oh, that is so good. Any Marvel movie, any of them I would have loved to have worked on. One of my favorites, The Winter Soldier, one of my favorites of all time. What a great movie. Great mix of action and humor. Love that kind of thing. So, anytime I see a great movie, it's like, would have loved to have worked on that. Luckily, I work on a lot of things that are my favorite shows, like Stranger Things. I looked at that one, God, I wish I could work on that, and then I did. So, another thing off the wish list. So I keep upping what my wishes are. So it's a cool thing to go through. And I'm fully digital, baby. I'm hook, line, and sinker digital. Makes my life easier, faster. I can deliver more to my clients. Because it's so much faster and I can get things out quicker, with a click of a button now, I have more time to spend with my family, more time to spend playing sports. That helps keep me in shape. So, totally digital. You couldn't pry my digital pen out of my hands if you tried. I'm going to be buried with my digital drawing pads. There have been a couple big inspirational moments for me. I remember one of the first things that just fascinated me. I always loved animation, always, like most kids. But I remember my dad bought a Super 8 projector, and they bought me some little Super 8 films, like from the old really terrible Incredible Hulk from the 70s. But they also got me segments from like Pinocchio and a couple other movies. But I remember Pinocchio, and I didn't particularly like the movie, but I loved the art and how they did it. And I would pull the film strip through the projector, and I would study every frame and how they moved it, and not only the characters but also the backgrounds, how they made something 2D look 3D. I was studying all that, and I'll never forget sitting there and just pulling those, go back and forth and seeing the differences. That was cool. But I also remember the defining moment when I thought, wow, Hollywood. Yeah. I was 12, just about to turn 13. It was May of 1977. Star Wars came out. I didn't know much about it. I hadn't seen much. Of course, there was no internet back then. But I was always a sci-fi fanatic. And when I got my tickets to the screening, it was during the first week, so I hadn't heard much. It was in Houston at the time. And only the front row, center of the front row was open. So I had to sit like this in the front row looking up. And that music hit. Ba, 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 right? And that ship comes over. While I'm laying back looking at it, and when that ship came over, I slunk even further down. I thought, oh, this is awesome. And that was it. I was hooked. Anything I could find on behind the scenes of movie making, famous monsters of Monsterland, magazines and Cinefex magazine. I studied and read them, and that was it. I was hooked. I had to figure out a way how to do it. I had no connections. I lived in Houston, but I eventually figured it out. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. So make sure you go out there and keep being creative, and hopefully I'll see all of you soon. Take care.